Well, grace and peace to you from Grace and Peace to You gathering here in Lexington, Virginia. Today's message is a message that has come across to me in various forms this week. And the title would be To Live a Great Story, which is a theme that is prevalent on the internet, social media these days. I have a sticker that a good friend of mine there in Roanoke, Virginia, Christina, gave me when we exchanged seeds. I have a sticker on the back of my car that says "Live a Great Story," and another friend of mine, just Reed, asked me what that meant, and I just looked at it for the surface and deeper meaning, but I didn't realize there was an actual internet phenomenon going on. So I looked it up, and it's basically you live your greatest story wherever you're at. You don't settle for the status quo. You give it your all wherever you're at, whenever you're at, and you pursue your dreams. And so this message is live a great story, and it's not only going to be centered on Jesus Christ, but it's also going to be a tribute to my late friend Jonathan Aidan, which was his creative name, Jonathan Chapman Cook. He had a creative name, Jonathan Aidan, as he was living his greatest story, and he chose to pick that name for his creative flair. But this tribute is for him, and it's also for all of us to just see how much life is precious. I was talking to another friend of mine, Jamie Gooden, yesterday, and he was talking about how he was made aware of, again, how short life is and how precious it is. So we're going to look at Jonathan Aidan. We're going to look at God's Word, and I hope that your heart and soul is touched today by the grace of God, by the most creative of creative, the Creator, who created Jonathan and allowed him to be so creative and talented and loving toward others. I just put up a old cuckoo clock of my parents that they bequeathed to myself and my children. When my kids were growing up, their grandpa and grandma knew how fixated they were on this cuckoo clock, and they got to work with it and play with it. And now it's in our house, in our new home here in Lexington, Virginia. And I've come to find out that the cuckoo clock, after it's been in storage, has to be readjusted. And I've been in a process of learning and seeking advice, because you can find a lot of tutorials on the internet now. And the cuckoo clock has to have several readjustments. The pendulum had to be weighted with some wooden weights that came with it to slow it down because it was running too quick. Now it's not cuckooing at the exact time. It's about 9 minutes off of when it should be cuckooing, and so it has to be reset. God's Word in Psalm 19 verse 7 says, "The instruction of the Lord is perfect, renewing one's life." So I'm praying that you are renewed and reset as you hear God's Word, as I share encouragements from my perspective of Jonathan Aidan. And some questions you might want to pose to yourself are, what is truly important to me in this lifespan that is afforded me? Because we are not guaranteed tomorrow. The breath of God is given to us for a time that is appointed to us, and we are all appointed a time. The book of Hebrews tells us that. Is what you are loving the most now loving you back in a healthy way? One of mankind's greatest problems is loving things that cannot possibly love you back in a healthy way. What are you spending your most precious time and abilities on? That really says a lot about you and will define you. So you need to ask yourself that question. What are you spending your most precious time and abilities on? And in light of a wake-up call of how life is so brief, do you want to leave a legacy? And let me tell you, my friend Jonathan left a legacy. His passing really echoed through my soul on how life is brief and how we need to spend it wisely. And my friend did. Life is precious. What does precious mean? It means it is treasured. It is unique. It is worthy of our attention. So, do you want to live a great story? Do you want to live the best you can? Do you want to live well? Do you want to just be mediocre? Well, I'm a firm believer that each and every one of us is created to do good works that God has called for us to do beforehand. Before we were even created, He had in His mind what He wanted us to do. I truly believe that my friend Jonathan Aidan fulfilled his calling. He was so giving in his talents and abilities. I remember how he spent his time and energy in giving to various charities and benefits that I promoted on Woods Creek, and how he brought his genuine excitement to whatever he did. How he even let me borrow some really prized and treasured equipment when he wasn't going to be able to be present, so I could continue doing the benefit. He definitely gave to others of his time and ability, and even when he wasn't able to be there, he still gave. And I know countless others can say the same and more about his giving ability. I was able to receive the music for the soul that he gave on several occasions. The kids and I would go and listen to various opportunities where he would play music in the community, in various churches, Hopkins Green, upstairs yoga studio, various places that he went all over the community. I'm sure that he may have even touched you if you were listening to this. But his music for the soul, and his music always drove me in meditative reflection to God of all grace, Jesus Christ, who saved me. That's how his music affected me, and I'm forever grateful for that. The book of James tells us in chapter 4 and verse 13, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will travel to such and such a city and spend a year there and do business and make a profit. You don't even know what tomorrow will bring, what your life will be. For you are like smoke that appears for a little while, then vanishes." Some versions say a mist. Instead, you should say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. But as it is, you boast in your arrogance, and all such boasting is evil. So it is a sin for the person who knows to do what is good and doesn't do it. So basically, life is short. Live a great story and do what's right. And I can tell you that in doing what's right to others and by others, that Jonathan Aidan didn't sin. He lived a great story. And this is a reminder that time is short, and we should be about the best business. Luke 12:16 through 17 talks about the unwise hoarder that kept everything unto himself. And I can tell you from my own experience with him and from the vicarious viewings of how he dealt with other people that Jonathan was not an unwise hoarder. He was a very generous giver that the Lord talks about, a cheerful giver that the Lord talks about. So let's look at Luke 12. Let's look at the unwise hoarder, just to contrast. 12 verse 16 through 21. Jesus told them a parable. A rich man's land was very productive. He thought to himself, what should I do, since I don't have anywhere to store my crops? I will do this, he said. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and store all my grain and all my goods there. Then I'll say to myself, you have many goods stored up for many years. Take it easy, eat, drink, and enjoy yourself. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life is demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? That's how it will be, or that's how it is with the one who stores up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. Well, my friend Jonathan didn't build bigger barns to store his abilities and talents. He freely gave them away. And I do believe that his treasure truly was rich toward God, because he was giving his God-given abilities towards others. Life is precious, treasure, unique, worthy of your attention. Don't waste it. We have an appointed day that is the end of this season of life. It's a beginning in a lot of ways, but it's the end of this season. We will all face death. There is a day appointed to us. Life is precious, treasured, unique, worthy of our attention, yet it's short in some ways on this plane of existence. Only on this plane of existence. Live a great story. The Lord has created you for good works. Find out what those good works are. Matthew 22 is a great place to start to find out. Matthew 22, verse 37 through 40. Jesus said to this question, Jesus said to him, the question was, which command in the law is the greatest? And Jesus said to him, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the greatest and most important command. The second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets depend on these two commands. I'm here to tell you that I could embrace the presence of God very easily in the presence of Jonathan Aidan's music that he was so gifted in giving to others. And I want you to know that I experienced being loved, his neighbor being loved through him by his giving spirit, by his genuine, non-complaining excitement about life, and his purposeful, intentional way of being. My question to you, friend, what is important to you? What is it that you're truly loving? Does it love you back? And what are you spending your most precious time and abilities on? Let me reiterate what Jesus said was the most important. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And this is the great and most important command. The second is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. Is that happening? I admonish you by Hebrews 4:7. Don't harden your hearts. Hebrews 4:7. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. If you hear the word of the Lord, the living word speaking to you, do not harden your hearts. See the message that was displayed through Jonathan Aidan's life. Hear the admonishment from the eternal of eternals, his word. And you need a reset, like my cuckoo clock that I talked about earlier. See, the Creator has saved you to be creative and to make a lasting and eternal impact, to leave a legacy. And my friend Jonathan, that you have. May we all. Grace and peace to you from Grace and Peace to You Gathering. Have a great day.